I am Elaine, 32, standing in the gleaming kitchen of my new house, a dream bought with 6 years of relentless saving and working overtime. The marble countertop feels cool under my fingertips, a tangible proof that I made it despite being thrown out at 18. Then my sister Amanda walks in her eyes, calculating as she surveys my achievement. "This place is perfect for my kids," she announces, just as Mom appears behind her nodding. If you have ever had family try to take what is rightfully yours, drop a comment below and subscribe to see how I turned the tables when they told me to pack my bags. Growing up in our suburban Chicago home, it became clear early on that there were different rules for me and my older sister Amanda. While she received new clothes and the latest toys, I learned to be grateful for hand-me-downs and birthday gifts that seemed like afterthoughts. Our parents, especially Mom, always had a soft spot for Amanda. "She needs more attention," Mom would say. "You are the strong one, Elaine. You can handle things yourself." This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When Amanda struggled in school, our parents hired tutors and reduced her chores. When I brought home straight, as it was expected, not celebrated. "That is just how Elaine is," they would say with a dismissive wave. I learned to shrink myself to need less, want less, and expect less. The summer after high school graduation marked the breaking point. Amanda, then 23, had married her boyfriend Jack after an unplanned pregnancy and moved back home with their infant daughter. My parents converted my bedroom into a nursery, without asking, relegating me to the sofa in the basement. "College is starting in August," Mom told me one morning. "We need the space for Amanda and her family. You will need to find somewhere else to live." There was no discussion, no help offered. Just an expectation that at 18, with barely $2,000 saved from my part-time job at the local grocery store, I would somehow figure out housing, tuition, and living expenses. "But what about the college fund you and Dad started?" I asked, remembering the certificates they had shown me years ago. Mom looked away. "We used that for Amanda's wedding. She needed it more than you." That night, I packed everything I owned into my used Honda Civic, a high school graduation gift from my grandmother. With no real plan and nowhere to go, I drove to my friend Rachel's house, where her parents allowed me to stay in their guest room until the fall semester started. The next 4 years were a blur of exhaustion. I took out student loans for tuition, but worked 2, sometimes 3 jobs to cover living expenses. Mornings at a coffee shop, afternoons at the university library, weekends, waiting tables, and any spare hours tutoring other students. Sleep became a luxury I could rarely afford. While I struggled, Amanda's family continued to grow with the addition of twins. My parents renovated their house to accommodate the expanding family, converting the garage into an additional bedroom. During rare family gatherings, Amanda would complain about how hard motherhood was, while Mom nodded sympathetically. Nobody ever asked about my 80-hour work weeks or how I was managing to maintain my GPA while barely sleeping. After graduation, I landed an entry-level position at a financial technology firm. The salary was modest, but the potential for growth was significant. I lived in a tiny studio apartment with furniture collected from curbs and thrift stores. While my coworkers splurged on happy hours and weekend trips, I continued my frugal lifestyle, channeling every spare dollar into savings. Within 3 years, I had worked my way up to a senior analyst position with a salary that finally allowed me to breathe easier. Still, I maintained my frugal habits. My goal was unwavering: a house of my own, a place where no one could tell me to leave, a space that was truly mine. 6 years after starting my career with promotions and strategic job changes, I was earning 6 figures. My savings account had grown substantially, and I began researching first-time homebuyer programs. A special state initiative for professionals committed to staying in the area offered favorable interest rates and reduced down payment requirements. After months of paperwork, credit checks, and financial verifications, I was approved. House hunting became my second job. I viewed dozens of properties, learning about foundation issues, electrical systems, and the importance of location. Finally, I found a charming 4-bedroom craftsman-style home in a quiet neighborhood with excellent schools. At $960,000, it stretched my budget to its limit. But the moment I walked through the front door, I knew it was meant to be mine. Throughout this entire journey, my family remained largely absent. Amanda occasionally reached out when she needed money for emergencies that somehow always coincided with sales at her favorite stores. Mom called mainly to tell me about Amanda's accomplishments or to subtly suggest I should visit more often. Dad, passive as always, remained in the background of family dynamics. Despite this, I invited them all to my housewarming party. Some part of me still yearned for their approval, still hoped they might finally see me. Perhaps owning a beautiful home would make them recognize my worth in a way my academic and professional achievements never had. As the day of the housewarming approached, I allowed myself to imagine a perfect scenario: Mom expressing pride in my accomplishment, Amanda showing genuine happiness for me, Dad pulling me aside to say he always knew I would succeed. I knew it was unlikely, but hope is a stubborn thing, persisting even when experience suggests it should know better. The morning of my housewarming party dawned bright and clear, one of those perfect spring days that seem designed specifically for new beginnings. Sunlight streamed through the bay windows of my living room, highlighting the original hardwood floors I had spent weeks refinishing by hand. The house, a 1920s craftsman, with thoughtfully updated amenities, represented everything I had worked for since being kicked out 10 years ago. I spent the morning putting final touches on everything, arranging fresh flowers in hand-picked vases, setting out artisanal cheeses and charcuterie on the kitchen island, and making sure the newly installed sound system was working perfectly. Each corner of this house represented a specific dream fulfilled. The home office with built-in bookshelves would allow me to eventually start the consulting business I had been planning. The spacious guest bedroom meant friends could stay over without sleeping on a sofa. The backyard garden, though still mostly dirt and potential, would someday produce vegetables and herbs for my kitchen. Rachel was the first to arrive 3 hours early, as promised, to help with final preparations. Our friendship had only strengthened since those first uncertain days when her family took me in. "This place is absolutely stunning, Elaine," she said, spinning slowly in the center of the living room. "I knew you would do it someday, but seeing it in person is something else entirely." "I still cannot believe it is mine," I admitted, running my hand along the smooth banister of the staircase. "Sometimes I wake up thinking I am still in that tiny apartment." As noon approached, other friends began arriving, coworkers who had become confidants, neighbors, eager to welcome me to the area, college friends who had witnessed my struggle firsthand. Each person who walked through the door brought genuine joy and congratulations, making the house feel increasingly like a home filled with positive energy. At 12:30, a full hour before the official start time listed on the invitation, the doorbell rang, insistently followed by the sound of children's voices and a sharp quiet down that I recognized immediately. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door to find Amanda, her husband Jack, and their 3 children standing on my porch. "Surprise! We came early to help you set up," Amanda announced, though her empty hands suggested otherwise. Without waiting for a response, she ushered her family inside, the children immediately scattering in different directions. "Tyler, Madison, Jackson, do not touch anything," Jack called half-heartedly after them, though the crash from somewhere upstairs suggested his warning came too late. Amanda looked around with wide eyes, taking in the crown molding the statement chandelier in the entryway, and the glimpse of the gourmet kitchen beyond the dining room. "Wow, this is quite a place for someone living alone," she said, her tone making the statement feel less like a compliment and more like an accusation. "Thank you," I replied, choosing to take her words at face value. It took a long time to find exactly what I wanted. "It must be nice having all this space to yourself," she continued, running her finger along a side table as if checking for dust. "Our apartment barely fits the 5 of us. Jackson and Tyler have to share a bedroom the size of your entryway." Before I could respond, Madison, her 6-year-old daughter, came thundering down the stairs. "Mom, I found the perfect bedroom. It has a window seat and a walk-in closet." Amanda smiled indulgently. "That is wonderful, sweetie. Maybe Aunt Elaine will let you sleep over sometimes." "Actually," I began, "that is going to be my home office." Elaine, Jack interrupted, emerging from my kitchen with a beer he had helped himself to. "You have got to show me where you got these countertops. They must have cost a fortune." The next hour continued in this vein, with Amanda's family exploring my house as if it were a model home they were considering purchasing. The children left fingerprints on freshly painted walls. Jack tracked mud across the living room rug, and Amanda made increasingly pointed comments about the excessive space for just one person. By the time other guests had arrived, filling the house with chatter and laughter, I was already exhausted from trying to monitor the children while maintaining a pleasant demeanor. Rachel shot me concerned glances whenever Amanda made another passive-aggressive remark, but I shook my head slightly. Today was supposed to be a celebration, and I was determined not to let family tension ruin it. At 2:15, the doorbell rang again. Through the decorative glass panels, I recognized my mother's silhouette. A familiar knot formed in my stomach, the same tension I had felt throughout childhood, whenever she was about to witness something I had accomplished, knowing that somehow she would find a way to diminish it. "Elaine, darling," she said, as I opened the door, air kissing near my cheek, "what a lovely little place you have found." $960,000 and 4 bedrooms was hardly little, but I swallowed my correction. "Thanks for coming, Mom. There are drinks and food in the kitchen." She barely nodded before spotting Amanda across the room. "There's my grandbabies," she exclaimed, making a beeline toward them without another word to me. Within minutes, she was cooing over the children, and deep in conversation with Amanda, their heads bent together like conspirators. As the afternoon progressed, I tried to focus on my other guests giving tours of the house and accepting their warm congratulations. Yet I couldn't help noticing that Mom and Amanda had disappeared upstairs along with Jack and the kids. Rachel noticed my distraction. "They have been up there a while," she observed. "Want me to go check on them?" "No," I sighed. "I will go. Can you make sure everyone has drinks?" As I climbed the stairs, I heard Mom's voice drifting from the master bedroom. "This closet is bigger than the children's room in your apartment, Amanda. And look at this bathroom. 2 sinks and a separate shower and tub." "I know," Amanda replied, her voice, taking on the whining quality I recognized from childhood, the tone that usually preceded her, getting exactly what she wanted. "It is just so unfair. We are cramped in that tiny 2-bedroom, while Elaine has all this space she doesn't even need." I froze on the landing, heart pounding. What exactly was happening here? "Well," Mom said in a conspiratorial tone, "family should help family. Elaine has always been selfish with her things. Remember how she never wanted to share her toys?" I was 5, I wanted to shout. Instead, I remained silent, listening, as my mother and sister continued their conversation, unaware of my presence. "This house would be perfect for us," Amanda continued. "The kids could each have their own room. Jack could use that front room as an office, and we would finally have space to breathe." "And what about Elaine?" Mom asked, though her tone suggested she already agreed with whatever Amanda was planning. "She could get an apartment nearby if she wants to stay in this neighborhood so badly. She does not need all this space. It is selfish, really." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After everything, after being kicked out at 18, after working multiple jobs through college, after saving every penny while they lived comfortably, they were now discussing how I should give up my house for Amanda's family. Before I could step forward to confront them, Amanda said, "Let's go downstairs. I want to make an announcement." I quickly retreated, rejoining my friends in the living room with a forced smile that felt brittle on my face. Minutes later, Amanda descended the stairs with Mom, Jack, and the children in tow, all wearing expressions that ranged from smugness Amanda to excitement the kids. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" Amanda called out, tapping a fork against her glass like she was at a wedding reception. The room gradually quieted as guests turned toward her. We have some exciting news to share. As conversations died down, and all eyes turned toward Amanda, I felt a chill of premonition. The satisfied smile on her face, the way Mom stood beside her with that familiar look of anticipation. I had seen this tableau before, usually preceding moments when my needs were about to be sacrificed for Amanda's desires. Jack and I have some wonderful news, Amanda announced, placing her hand on her eldest son's shoulder. As many of you know, our apartment has become way too small for our growing family. 3 active kids need space to run and play. Murmurs of agreement came from a few guests who knew Amanda, while my friends exchanged confused glances. This was supposed to be my housewarming party after all. Well, Amanda continued, her voice rising with excitement, we will not have to worry about that anymore. The kids and I are absolutely thrilled to announce that we will be moving into this beautiful house very soon. A beat of stunned silence followed before the room erupted in confused whispers. Rachel caught my eye from across the room, her expression a mix of shock and indignation. I stood frozen, the cheese plate I had been arranging forgotten in my hands. Amanda. I finally managed, my voice sounding distant, even to my own ears. What are you talking about? She turned to me with a look of exaggerated patience, as if explaining something to a child. It just makes sense, Elaine. This house has 4 bedrooms, and you are just one person. Our apartment can barely fit the 5 of us. The solution is obvious. The solution to your housing situation is not my house, I said, struggling to keep my voice level. Several guests had begun to edge toward the door, sensing the family drama unfolding. Now Elaine, Mom interjected, stepping forward with the placating tone she always used when she was about to dismiss my feelings. Family helps family. Your sister needs this house more than you do. That is not how property ownership works, I replied, feeling hysteria bubbling beneath my carefully maintained composure. I bought this house. My name is on the mortgage. I make the payments. We can discuss the financial details later, Amanda waved dismissively. The important thing is that this house will be perfect for us. The kids have already picked out their rooms. As if on cue, Madison piped up, I get the big one with the window seat. No, you do not, I said, firmly setting down the cheese plate before I dropped it. None of you are moving in here. This is my house. Jack, who had been measuring the living room windows with a tape measure he had apparently brought for this purpose, looked up with a frown. Don't be difficult, Elaine. The curtains in our apartment would fit perfectly here, with just a small adjustment. I looked around in disbelief. Was this actually happening? In my own home, at my own housewarming party, my family was acting as if my property was suddenly communal, as if my years of hard work and saving entitled them to the fruits of my labor. I think there has been a misunderstanding, I said, trying to regain control of the situation. I am not moving out. I am not sharing my house. I bought this place for myself. Amanda's face darkened, her expression shifting from entitlement to anger. You always were selfish. Some things never change. Selfish, I repeated, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. How is it selfish to want to keep the house I saved for years to buy? Because family comes first, Mom stated, as if reciting an indisputable fact. Your sister has 3 children. They need the space more than you do. Then perhaps you should have helped them save for their own house, instead of expecting me to give them mine. I countered, surprising myself with my directness. The room had grown uncomfortably quiet, with remaining guests witnessing the confrontation with wide eyes. Some of my coworkers were edging toward the door, clearly wishing to escape the family drama. I do not think you understand, Amanda said, her voice taking on the dangerous sweetness I recognized from childhood confrontations. We have already made plans. The kids are excited. We have even started looking at schools in this district. Without ever discussing it with me, I asked, incredulously, the actual owner of the house. We knew you would make a fuss, Mom sighed. You always do when asked to share. This is not about sharing, I exclaimed, my composure finally cracking. "This is about you, assuming you can take something that belongs to me." Amanda's twins had wandered into the dining room and were examining my grandmother's china cabinet with sticky fingers. "Tyler Jackson, be careful with that," I called out, moving to intercept them. "Do not yell at my children," Amanda snapped. "They are just exploring their new home." "This is not their new home," I insisted, guiding the boys away from the antique cabinet. "And this conversation is over. I appreciate you coming to my housewarming, but I think it is time for you to leave." Mom gasped, as if I had slapped her. "You would throw your own family out, after everything we have done for you." The irony of her statement hit me like a physical blow. Everything you have done for me, like kicking me out at 18 to make room for Amanda, like using my college fund for her wedding. Please tell me exactly what I owe you. "That was different," Mom dismissed. "You were an adult." "And I am still an adult," I replied. "One who makes her own decisions about her own property." Amanda stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hissing whisper. "You need to pack your bags and find somewhere else to live. The kids are starting school here in the fall. We have already looked into the registration process." Jack nodded, adding, "I have a buddy who can help us move your stuff into storage next weekend. You can take what you need for a small apartment. The rest can stay." "This is insane," I said, looking from one family member to another. "You cannot just decide to take my house." "It is not just your house anymore," Mom stated firmly. "Family properties should be used according to need, and Amanda needs it more. You can find a nice one-bedroom apartment nearby." I looked around at the home I had worked so hard to obtain. The carefully chosen paint colors, the renovations I had planned, the garden. I would never get to plant if they had their way. Something inside me, something that had been bending and accommodating my entire life, finally irrevocably broke. Standing in my living room surrounded by confused guests and my entitled family, I felt something shift inside me. Years of suppressed anger, disappointment, and hurt crystallized into a sudden clarifying rage. My hands trembled slightly, but my mind had never been clearer. This moment, my sister claiming my house, my mother backing her play, my brother-in-law measuring for curtains, was merely the latest verse in a lifelong song of being overlooked, dismissed, and expected to sacrifice. Flash memories cascaded through my mind: Amanda receiving a car for her 16th birthday, while I got a used bicycle. My parents attending every one of her school events while missing my valedictorian speech, because someone had to stay with Amanda's kids. The Christmas I received practical socks while Amanda unwrapped designer clothes. "You know what Jack said," breaking into my thoughts. "I think the basement could work as a man cave. I could put my recliner and big screen down there. And we could convert that little room off the kitchen into a playroom," Amanda added, warming to the theme. "The kids need somewhere to keep their toys." I watched as they continued to carve up my home, verbally assigning spaces and planning renovations, as if I had already agreed to their outrageous proposal. Mom nodded along occasionally, offering suggestions about furniture placement or color schemes. "You have not heard a word I have said," I finally interrupted. "I am not giving you my house. I am not moving out. This discussion is over." Amanda rolled her eyes dramatically. "You always were stubborn. This is not just about you anymore, Elaine. Think about the children." "I am thinking about setting an example for your children," I replied. "An example that shows you cannot just take what belongs to someone else, because you want it." "Now you are just being petty," Mom interjected. "Your sister has 3 children. What do you need all this space for?" "It does not matter what I need it for," I said. "It is mine. I bought it. I worked for it." While Amanda was raising a family, Mom countered. She did not have the luxury of focusing only on herself. Luxury. The word struck me like a physical blow. You think working 3 jobs through college was a luxury? Living on ramen noodles and sleeping 4 hours a night was a luxury? Saving every penny while you all took vacations and bought new cars was a luxury? Here she goes with the dramatics. Amanda sighed to Jack, though loudly enough for everyone to hear. always making herself the victim. That comment, so dismissive of my reality, so emblematic of how my family had always minimized my experiences, was the final straw. The room seemed to tilt slightly as blood rushed to my head. All the times I had swallowed my true thoughts, all the times I had stepped aside for Amanda's needs, all the times I had accepted less, because that was what was expected of me. It all culminated in this moment. "Get out," I said, my voice so quiet that Amanda had to lean forward to hear me. "Excuse me," she asked, her eyebrows shooting up in exaggerated shock. "Get out of my house," I repeated louder this time. "All of you, now." "You cannot kick us out," Mom sputtered, her face flushing. "We are your family." "Family does not try to steal from each other," I replied. "Family does not dismiss each other's feelings or achievements. Family supports each other." "We are trying to support each other," Amanda insisted, "by sharing resources." "No," I corrected. "You are trying to take what is mine just like you have been doing our entire lives, and I am finally saying no." Jack stepped forward, his expression darkening. "You need to be reasonable, Elaine. Think about what is best for everyone." "I have spent my entire life thinking about what is best for everyone else," I shot back. "For once, I am thinking about what is best for me." "This is exactly why you are alone," Amanda said with a sneer. "You are too selfish to ever maintain relationships. No wonder you do not have a family of your own." The comment was designed to hit my most vulnerable spot. In the past, it would have worked. I would have crumbled, apologized, tried to prove I was not the selfish person they claimed I was. But something had fundamentally changed. Instead of pain, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I would rather be alone than surrounded by people who see me only for what they can take from me, I said quietly. Rachel, who had been watching the confrontation with increasing concern, stepped forward. "I think everyone needs to calm down. Elaine, do you want me to ask some of the guests to leave so your family can discuss this privately?" "There is nothing to discuss," I replied, not taking my eyes off Amanda. "They were just leaving." "We are not going anywhere until you agree to be reasonable," Mom stated, crossing her arms over her chest in the stance I recognized from childhood standoffs, a stance that had always ended with me giving in. "Not this time. If you do not leave voluntarily, I will call the police and have you removed from my property," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Your choice." The threat hung in the air between us, a line drawn that could not be uncrossed. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Tyler, Amanda's middle child, knocked over a vase while chasing his brother. The crash of breaking glass seemed to shatter the tension in the room. "Fine," Amanda spat, grabbing Tyler's arm roughly. "We will go, but this conversation is not over." "Yes, it is," I replied. "It has been over for years. I just did not realize it until now." As they gathered their things, Mom approached me one last time, her expression a mixture of disappointment and disbelief. "I raised you better than this," she said softly. "No," I corrected her. "I raised myself better than this. That is why I am finally standing up for myself." The door closed behind them, with a finality that should have felt victorious. Instead, I was left with a strange emptiness, standing in a living room full of uncomfortable guests who had witnessed my family's true nature and my long overdue response to it. The house that had represented such promise now felt tainted by their presumption and entitlement. "I am so sorry about that," I said to the room at large, trying to gather the scattered pieces of my composure. Rachel approached and wrapped an arm around my shoulders. "You have nothing to apologize for," she assured me. "Nothing at all." But as conversations slowly resumed and guests attempted to return the party to its original celebratory purpose, I could not shake the feeling that this confrontation was far from over. Amanda had never accepted defeat gracefully, and Mom had always enabled her persistence. This time would be no different, except that I was different. The Elaine who had always given in no longer existed. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who recognized her own worth. And that woman was not giving up her house. The next morning, I awoke to 27 missed calls and twice as many text messages. Mom, Amanda, and even Jack had spent the night alternating between guilt trips, anger, and attempts at negotiation. The last message, sent at 3 a.m., was from Amanda. "You will regret this. Family is forever, and you just threw yours away over a house." I set my phone aside without responding, and made coffee, taking it out to the back porch to watch the sunrise over my yard that no one could take from me. As I sat there, a plan began to form. This cycle of entitlement and emotional manipulation would never end unless I took definitive action to stop it. After finishing my coffee, I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my lawyer who had handled the closing on my house. The second was to a security company. The third was to Rachel, asking her to come over that afternoon. By noon, I had printed out several important documents and organized them in a folder. The security company had already sent someone to install new smart locks and a doorbell camera. And my lawyer had drafted a cease and desist letter that would be delivered to Amanda and my parents the following day. When the doorbell rang at 1 p.m., I was not surprised to see Amanda standing there with Mom beside her. What did surprise me was the presence of my father, who rarely involved himself in family conflicts, preferring to let Mom handle them. The security system alerted me to their presence before they rang the bell, giving me precious moments to prepare myself. "Hello," I said calmly after opening the door, not stepping aside to let them in. "Can I help you?" "This has gone far enough," Mom said, attempting to push past me into the house. "We need to talk like adults." "I agree," I replied, still blocking the entrance. "That is why I have invited several friends over to witness our conversation. If you would like to come back in 1 hour when they arrive, we can all talk together." "We do not need an audience for a family discussion," Amanda snapped. "Recent experience suggests otherwise," I countered. 1 hour. Your choice." They retreated to their car, huddling in conversation while watching my house. I used the time to finalize my preparations and greet Rachel and 2 other close friends as they arrived. I had also invited my boss Martin, who had become something of a mentor to me over the years. At precisely 2 p.m., my family returned to the door. This time, I invited them in, leading them to the living room where my friends were already seated. The atmosphere was tense, with Amanda shooting venomous looks at Rachel, who had witnessed her behavior the previous day. "I do not understand why these people need to be here," Mom said, perching uncomfortably on the edge of the sofa. "They are here to witness what happens next," I explained. "So there can be no misunderstanding or rewriting of events later." Dad cleared his throat. "Elaine, your mother and sister think you may have misunderstood their intentions yesterday." "I understood perfectly," I replied. "They want me to give up my house so Amanda's family can live here instead." "Not give up," Amanda corrected quickly. "Share resources. We could pay you rent." "With what money?" I asked. "You have been asking me for loans every few months for years and never repaying them." She flushed but did not deny it. "That was different. This would be official." "It does not matter," I said firmly. "I am not interested in any arrangement that involves me leaving my home or sharing it with you." "Then why did you buy such a large house?" Mom demanded. "It is excessive for one person." "Because I wanted to," I stated simply. "Because I worked hard and saved my money and made smart career choices, and this is the result. I do not need to justify my purchase to anyone." "You have always been selfish," Amanda began, but I held up my hand to stop her. "Before this goes any further, I want to show you something," I said, reaching for my phone. I opened a folder of photos and handed it to Dad first. "These are pictures of my first apartment after college. The one I could barely afford while working 60 hours a week." He scrolled through them silently, taking in the tiny studio with its hot plate instead of a kitchen, the mattress on the floor, the milk crates serving as bookshelves. "And these," I continued, pulling out printed bank statements from a folder, "are my savings account statements from the past 8 years. Every month I put aside at least 30% of my income, Often more. I packed my lunch every day. I did not take vacations. I drove the same car until it died completely. Mom glanced at the papers without really seeing them. What is your point, Elaine? My point is that this house did not appear out of thin air, I explained. I worked for it. I sacrificed for it. I earned it. While I was raising 3 children, Amanda interjected, I did not have the luxury of focusing only on my career. That was your choice, I replied evenly, just as this was mine. Choices have consequences, Mom stated, in that familiar righteous tone. Your choice to prioritize material things has left you alone. And your choices are about to have consequences too, I said, my voice steady. Despite the adrenaline coursing through me, I have something else to show you. I took out my phone again and pulled up several documents I had scanned earlier that day. This is the deed to my house, showing that I am the sole owner. I swiped to the next document. This is my mortgage agreement. Another swipe. And this is the homeowner's insurance policy that protects my investment. They stared at me with confused expressions, clearly not understanding where I was going with this. What you need to understand, I continued, is that I knew this day might come. I knew that at some point you would try to take what belongs to me, just as you have been doing my entire life. I swiped to another document. This is a letter from my lawyer dated the day I closed on this house. It outlines my concerns about potential family claims on my property and establishes a clear record that I never intended to share ownership or residency. Amanda's face had gone pale, while Mom's cheeks flushed with anger. Dad simply looked tired, as if he had expected this confrontation all along. And this, I said, showing the final document, is a cease and desist letter that will be delivered to each of you tomorrow, legally prohibiting you from making further claims on my property or harassing me about it. You would sue your own family, Mom gasped. If necessary, yes, I replied calmly. I would protect what is legally mine from anyone trying to take it, family or not. Remember when you kicked me out at 18? I asked, looking directly at my parents. You said I was an adult and needed to make my own way. Well, I did. I bought this house with money I earned while working multiple jobs, saving every penny, and making smart investments. This house represents every sacrifice I have made, every long night I worked while you were all sleeping comfortably in the home you denied me. The silence that followed was profound. Rachel and my other friends sat quietly, their presence, a tangible support, as I finally spoke my truth. You have 2 choices now, I continued. You can accept that this is my house, and I will do with it as I please. Or you can continue this campaign to take it from me, in which case our relationship will be permanently damaged and potentially handled through legal channels. You would choose a house over your family, Amanda asked, her voice smaller than I had ever heard it. No, I corrected her. I am choosing myself over people who have never respected my boundaries or celebrated my achievements. I am choosing to break the pattern where I give and you take. I am choosing to value the years of hard work that went into purchasing this home. Mom stood up abruptly. I cannot believe you are being so cold, after everything we have done for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. Please remind me. Her mouth opened and closed several times, but no specific examples emerged. Instead, she gathered her purse and headed for the door. Come on, Amanda. Jack, we are leaving. Amanda hesitated, looking around the house one last time with naked longing before following our mother. Jack trailed behind them, shooting me a look that was part anger, part something that might have been respect. Dad remained seated after they left, staring at his hands for a long moment. I should have stepped in a long time ago, he finally said. Your mother and sister, they have always been a force of nature. It was easier to go along. Easier for who, I asked. He nodded, acknowledging the point. I am proud of you, Elaine. For this house, for standing up for yourself. I should say that more often. His words, while appreciated, came decades too late to fill the void his silence had created. Thank you, I said simply. But I need you to leave now too. After he departed, my friends surrounded me with supportive words and hugs. Rachel squeezed my hand. That was incredible. How do you feel? I considered the question carefully. Lighter, I finally said. Like I put down a weight I have been carrying my whole life. What happens now? Martin asked. Now, I said, looking around at my beautiful home, I finally get to enjoy what I have worked for, without guilt, without fear, and without apologizing for my success. For the first time since buying the house, I felt fully at home in it. This was my space earned through my efforts, protected by my courage, and now finally free from the shadow of family obligation that had followed me for so long. The days following the confrontation brought an eerie silence from my family. The cease and desist letters were delivered as planned, but there was no immediate reaction, no angry calls, no emotional texts, no flying monkeys dispatched to make me see reason. The silence itself was unusual. In our family, dynamic conflicts typically spawned extended campaigns of guilt and manipulation, rather than quiet withdrawal. I used the respite to truly settle into my home. I painted the master bedroom a soothing sage green, installed bookshelves in what would become my home office, and started preparing the backyard soil for a vegetable garden. Each action felt like a declaration. This space is mine. These choices are mine. This life is mine. A week passed before the silence broke. The first salvo came in the form of a group email from Amanda to our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, with the subject line, Elaine's betrayal. In florid, victim-laden language, she described how I had abandoned the family and chosen material wealth over the needs of innocent children. She conveniently omitted the part where she had tried to claim my house for herself. The responses trickled in over the next few days. Some relatives reached out directly, curious about my side of the story. Others accepted Amanda's version, without question, sending me disappointed messages about family loyalty and selfishness. A few remained neutral, recognizing the pattern of Amanda's entitlement from previous family dramas. Aunt Patricia, Mom's older sister and the family matriarch, surprised me with her response. I have watched this dynamic play out your entire life, she wrote in a private email. It is about time you stood up for yourself. Your mother and sister will not change, unless forced to. Stay strong. Her support was unexpected but deeply appreciated. I had always assumed the entire extended family viewed me through the same lens my parents did, as the less important daughter, the one who should accommodate and sacrifice. The next phase began when Mom started calling mutual friends, sharing her distress over my mental state, and suggesting that my success had changed me for the worse. One friend, Jessica, called to warn me. Your mom reached out to me, she said. She is telling everyone you had some kind of breakdown and have turned against your family. She actually suggested we should check on you because you might be having a crisis. The only crisis I had was realizing I have spent my entire life trying to earn the approval of people who will never give it, I replied. Well, I told her you seemed perfectly fine to me, Jessica assured me. In fact, more confident and happy than I have seen you in years. The social media campaign came next. Amanda posted vague but pointed references to toxic family members and those who turn their backs on children in need. She shared articles about family obligation and the importance of generosity, tagging me in some until I adjusted my privacy settings. Through it all, I maintained my boundaries. I did not respond to the provocations, did not defend myself publicly, and did not engage in the drama. My lawyer advised documenting everything but avoiding direct contact that might escalate the situation. The first real test came 3 weeks after the confrontation, when Mom showed up unannounced at my front door. The security system alerted me to her presence, allowing me to compose myself before answering. Elaine, she said, her voice trembling slightly, we need to talk. I am not having this conversation again, I replied, keeping the door mostly closed. Your sister is devastated, she continued, as if I had not spoken. The children keep asking when they can see their new house. Tyler has already told all his friends he is moving to a big house with a yard. That is unfortunate, I said evenly. But it is not my problem that Amanda made promises she had no right to make. Mom's expression hardened. How can you be so cold? These are your niece and nephews. I love them, I clarified. But that does not mean I owe them my house. No one is saying you should give them your house. She backpedaled, a new strategy emerging. But perhaps you could help them with a down payment on their own place. You clearly have money to spare. The request might have seemed reasonable to an outsider unfamiliar with our history, but I recognized it for what it was: another attempt to extract resources from me, just in a different form. I will not be discussing my finances with you, I stated firmly. Now I have a work call in 5 minutes. Goodbye, Mom. As I closed the door, I heard her call out, "This is not over, Elaine." But for me, it was. The old pattern where I would eventually cave to pressure, where my boundaries would dissolve in the face of persistent guilt, was broken. The person I had been, the daughter desperate for approval and willing to sacrifice to get it, no longer existed. The next attempt came from Jack, who approached me, after apparently running into me by coincidence at the local grocery store. His tactic was different man to man, reasonable, businesslike. "Look, Elaine," he said, blocking my path in the produce section. "I think we got off on the wrong foot. Amanda can be emotional. You know how she is. But I have been thinking about a compromise." "There is no compromise needed," I replied, trying to move past him. "The house is mine. End of discussion." "Just hear me out," he persisted. "What if we bought into the house, became co-owners? We could convert the basement into a separate apartment for you." The audacity was almost impressive. "So your compromise is that I give up most of my house and move into the basement?" He had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "When you put it that way, it sounds bad. But family helps family, right?" "Please move out of my way," I said, "and do not approach me again." As I walked away, I heard him mutter, "Ice Queen." The insult rolled off me. In the past, being seen as cold or unfeeling would have devastated me, sending me into a spiral of people-pleasing to prove otherwise. Now I recognized it for what it was, a manipulation tactic, designed to make me question my reasonable boundaries. The most difficult moment came when Amanda sent the children to my house one Saturday afternoon. Madison, Tyler, and Jackson stood on my doorstep, their faces, a mixture of confusion and hope, clearly sent as emotional leverage. Aunt Elaine, Madison said, her voice rehearsed. "We came to see our new bedrooms. Mom said you just needed time to get used to the idea of sharing." My heart ached for them, innocent pawns in their mother's manipulation. "Your mom was wrong to tell you that," I said gently. "This is my house, and you are not moving in here." Tyler's face crumpled. "But Mom already gave away some of our toys because she said we would get new ones for our new big house." The manipulation was so transparent, so cruel in its use of children, that it strengthened my resolve rather than weakening it. "I am sorry she did that," I told them. "That was not fair to you. But this is not your new house." "Mom said you are being selfish," Jackson informed me with the brutal honesty of a 7-year-old. "Sometimes adults disagree about things," I explained. "That does not make either person bad. Would you like some cookies before I take you home?" After serving them cookies and milk at the kitchen island, I drove them back to Amanda's apartment. She opened the door with a triumphant expression that faltered when she saw me standing behind her children. "You sent your children to do your dirty work," I said quietly, ensuring they could not hear. "That is a new low even for you." "I do not know what you are talking about," she replied, but her eyes shifted away from mine. They wanted to see their aunt. "Do not use your children as pawns again," I warned. "Next time I will call Child Protective Services." Her face paled. "You would not dare." "Try me," I replied, before turning to leave. That night, alone in my house, I finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. The family I had longed to please, to be accepted by, had revealed themselves completely. The pain was acute, but clarifying. I cried for the little girl who had never been enough for the teenager, thrown out of her home for the young woman who worked herself to exhaustion, trying to earn love that should have been freely given. But when the tears dried, I felt something unexpected: freedom. The constant anxiety of trying to please people who could never be pleased had lifted. The fear that I would lose their love if I did not comply with their demands was gone, because I now understood that what they offered had never been true love in the first place. I walked through my house, touching the walls, the countertops, the furniture I had carefully selected. This space represented not just financial security, but emotional liberation. For the first time in my life, I had stood firm in my own worth, and though the cost had been high, the reward was incalculable. The next morning, I changed my phone number, updated my email address, and adjusted all my social media privacy settings. I did not block my family entirely; that door remained slightly ajar, but I created enough distance to allow myself to heal without constant intrusion. Then I did something I had been postponing. I invited friends over for a proper housewarming, a celebration unmarred by family drama. As we toasted with champagne in my living room, Rachel raised her glass. "To Elaine," she said, who finally realized her own worth. The glasses clinked, and in that moment, surrounded by people who genuinely celebrated my success, I felt truly at home. 6 months passed, transforming my house from a new purchase into a true home. The garden I had planted now flourished with tomatoes, peppers, and herbs. The home office was complete with built-in bookshelves holding my growing collection of business and psychology books. Each room reflected my personality and preferences, untainted by compromise or concession. After the dramatic confrontation with my family, I had made a conscious decision to focus on healing. Weekly therapy sessions helped me understand the dynamics that had shaped our relationship and my role in maintaining unhealthy patterns. I learned about emotional boundaries, familial trauma, and the difference between guilt and genuine responsibility. What you are experiencing is common for the family scapegoat, who finally breaks free, my therapist Dr. Rivera explained during one session. Your family created a narrative where you were expected to sacrifice for others. When you refused to continue that role, it threatened their entire system. Will they ever understand? I asked. Will they ever see that what they asked was wrong? She gave me a gentle smile. That is not something you can control. Your task is to heal yourself, not to convince them. That truth was difficult to accept, but ultimately liberating. I could not change my family's perception, but I could change how their perception affected me. Gradually, the guilt that had plagued me began to recede. The voice in my head that questioned my right to prioritize my own needs grew quieter. My professional life flourished during this period of personal growth. The confidence I gained from standing up for myself translated into more assertiveness at work. I pitched new ideas, led team projects, and negotiated a promotion that had been overdue. Martin, my boss and mentor, commented on the change. "Whatever happened earlier this year transformed you," he observed after I successfully presented to executive leadership. "You have always been talented, but now you own your expertise in a new way." The promotion came with a significant salary increase, allowing me to accelerate my mortgage payments and start a new investment portfolio. Financial security had always been important to me, unsurprising given my experience of being cut off at 18, but now it represented something beyond mere survival. It was proof that I could provide for myself, that I did not need to depend on family connections or approval to thrive. My social circle expanded and deepened. Without the constant drain of trying to please my family, I had more emotional energy for friendships. I joined a local book club, started taking cooking classes, and volunteered at a mentorship program for first-generation college students. These activities brought new people into my life, people who knew me only as I was now, not as the accommodating daughter and sister I had been. Rachel remained my closest friend, a constant source of support and honest feedback. One evening, as we shared wine on my back patio, she brought up my family. "Have you heard from them at all?" she asked. I nodded. Mom sends a text every few weeks. Very surface level. Hope you are well. Kind of messages. Nothing about what happened. And, Amanda. Nothing directly, I said. But I heard through a cousin that things are not great for them. Jack lost his job, and they had to downsize to an even smaller apartment. Do you feel bad about that? I considered the question carefully. I feel bad for the children. They did not create this situation. But do I feel responsible? Their financial struggles existed long before they tried to take my house, and they would exist even if I had given in. That is growth, Rachel observed. The old Elaine would have found a way to make their problems her responsibility. She was right. For years I had operated under the belief that family obligation trumped all other considerations, including my own well-being. Breaking free from that mindset had been painful but necessary. 3 weeks later, I received an unexpected email from my father. Unlike Mom's superficial check-ins, his message acknowledged what had happened. I have been doing a lot of thinking, he wrote, about the way your mother and I parented you, and Amanda. About the unfair expectations we placed on you. I cannot speak for them, but I want you to know that I see now how wrong we were. I am proud of the woman you have become despite our failures. If you are open to it, I would like to meet for coffee sometime. No pressure, no agenda. Just a father hoping to know his daughter better. The email brought tears to my eyes, not because it erased the past, but because it represented something I had never expected acknowledgement. I did not respond immediately, taking time to process my feelings and discuss it with Dr. Rivera. Do you want to see him? She asked. I think I do, I admitted. Not to forgive and forget, but to see if there is anything worth salvaging. Our first meeting was awkward, but revealing. Dad seemed smaller, somehow less the intimidating figure of my childhood, and more a flawed aging man with regrets. We talked cautiously at first, sticking to safe topics like my job and his garden. But eventually, he brought up the past. I let your mother handle most of the parenting, he said. It was easier than arguing with her, but that meant I failed to protect you when I should have. Yes, I agreed simply. You did. He nodded, accepting the truth without defensiveness. I cannot change that, but I want you to know that I see it now, and I am sorry. That coffee led to another, and gradually we built a new relationship, not the close father-daughter bond I had longed for as a child, but an honest connection between two adults. He never pressured me to reconcile with Mom or Amanda, respecting the boundaries I had established. 9 months after the confrontation, I received a text from Amanda that surprised me. Can we talk? Just us. After discussing it with Dr. Rivera and thinking it through carefully, I agreed to meet her at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. She arrived looking more subdued than I had seen her in years, without the usual dramatic entrance or attention-seeking behavior. Thank you for meeting me, she said as she sat down across from me. What did you want to talk about? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. She twisted her wedding ring nervously. Things have been hard. Jack lost his job. We had to move again. The kids are struggling with all the changes. I waited, expecting the conversation to turn toward what I could do to help them, money perhaps, or allowing them to stay with me temporarily, but she surprised me. I have been seeing a therapist, she continued. Part of my recovery program. Recovery program, I repeated, confused. I am an addict, she said quietly. Shopping mainly. Spending money we do not have to feel better temporarily. That is why we were always broke, always needing help. The therapist says I use material things to fill emotional holes. The admission shocked me. I had always seen Amanda as entitled and spoiled, but addiction had never occurred to me. How long? I asked. Years, she admitted, but it got worse after the kids. Postpartum depression that I never really addressed. Buying things gave me a high when I felt worthless. For the first time I saw my sister not as my rival or oppressor but as someone fighting her own battles. It did not excuse her behavior or erase the hurt she had caused, but it helped me understand it differently. I am not asking for money, she clarified, seeming to read my thoughts, or a place to stay. I am working my program, and part of that is making amends where possible. I know I can never fully make up for trying to take your house, or for the years of taking advantage. But I want you to know that I see it now, and I am sorry. The words I had never expected to hear from her hung between us. They did not magically heal decades of hurt, but they cracked open a door I had assumed was permanently closed. Thank you for saying that, I replied. I appreciate your honesty. We talked for over an hour more openly than we ever had before. She spoke about her struggles with motherhood, her resentment of my freedom, and her realization that she had been enabled, rather than truly supported by our parents. Mom still does not get it, she admitted. She thinks my problem is that I do not have enough, not that I was using shopping to self-medicate. That sounds like Mom, I agreed, and we shared a small smile of recognition. As we prepared to leave, Amanda asked, "Do you think we could try to have some kind of relationship? Not like before, something healthier. The kids miss you." I miss them too, I admitted. Let's start small. Maybe I could take them to the park sometimes, or have them over for dinner occasionally. Her face lit up. They would love that. We parted with a tentative hug, not a complete reconciliation, but the beginning of a different kind of relationship built on honesty rather than obligation. Over the following months, I gradually reintroduced my niece and nephews into my life. They visited my home, not as future residents, but as welcome guests. I established clear boundaries with Amanda about these visits, and to my surprise, she respected them. My relationship with Mom remained more distant. She continued to send occasional texts, but showed no real acknowledgement of past patterns or current boundaries. I accepted that some relationships cannot be transformed, only managed from a safe distance. As the one-year anniversary of buying my house approached, I planned a small dinner party to celebrate, not a housewarming this time, but a homecoming in the deepest sense. The guests included Rachel Martin and his wife, my new friends, from the book club, and after careful consideration my father and my sister's family. As we gathered around my dining table, I looked at the faces of these people who represented different chapters of my life, past, present, and future. Some relationships had been healed, others transformed, and a few left behind. But all had taught me something vital about myself and my worth. After dinner, as we enjoyed dessert on the back patio under string lights, Dad raised his glass. "To Elaine," he said, "and to her beautiful home." "To standing your ground," Rachel added. "To new beginnings," Amanda offered quietly. I raised my own glass, feeling a profound sense of peace. "To building a life that belongs truly to yourself," I said. "And to surrounding yourself with people who celebrate that, rather than try to take it away." As laughter and conversation flowed around me, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The house that had become a battleground had transformed into a sanctuary, not just a physical space, but a symbol of my right to define my own life on my own terms. The path to this moment had been painful, but I would not trade the clarity and strength I had gained. Sometimes the most valuable lessons come through the hardest experiences. Sometimes, you have to lose what you thought was family to find your true home. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who tried to take advantage of your success? How did you handle it? Drop a comment below and share your experience. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about setting boundaries and reclaiming your power. Thank you for listening, and remember, your success is yours to celebrate, not others to claim.